CareerBuilder is made for people who have that thing. You know, those superpowers that make you good at your job, the skills you bring to work. And CareerBuilder knows those skills make you right for other jobs too. Higher paying jobs with benefits. Jobs you never thought of trying. Are you a people person? Work from home as a customer service rep? Are you organized and like driving? Become a delivery driver. You have the skills it takes, and CareerBuilder.com has the jobs to get you hired fast. Visit CareerBuilder.com.
The radio on your dash is more than radio. That SiriusXM button is instant access to a world of exclusive entertainment, including ad-free music channels for every genre and decade. You can also hear your favorite sports, comedy, talk, and news. Plus, you can stream with the SiriusXM app on your phone and connected home devices. So grab your phone, dial pound 250, and just say SiriusXM to get 12 months for $5 a month with a new select subscription. Call for offer details. Fees and taxes apply.
Hi, I'm Phil Donahue.
And I'm Marlo Thomas.
We fell in love and got married over 40 years ago.
Now on our new podcast, we visit the homes of our favorite long-married celebrity couples.
To talk about enduring love and all its challenges. Listen to Double Date on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Presented by General Motors, offering 30 new electric vehicles by 2025.
Everybody in.
The first look at betting next week's games in the NFL. This is Opening Lines with Jonathan Von Tobel and Matt Humans on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome in. It is the Opening Line second hour. I'm Jonathan Von Tobel. Matt Humans alongside as well. Dan Saley, professional handicapper, college football handicapper, is going to be with us in 30 minutes. But week 2 of the National Football League is upon us. So, Matt Humans, we dive right in as we look ahead to next week's action. I'll give out the game, the opener, and the adjustment from the opening line. You give us your thoughts on what's going to happen maybe in this next week of action. Let's start at the top of the rotation. The New York Giants on Thursday night will hit the road, take on the Washington football team. Problem for the Washington football team, lost Ryan Fitzpatrick to a hip injury. Taylor Heineke probably going to be the guy. Look ahead line was 5.5 with a total of 43.5. We're looking at 3.5 now in favor of the team with a total of 41.5.
Yeah, I would not expect offensive fireworks in this game. And in fact, if you can find a total of 43, I would look to play under that. I don't downgrade Washington at all when you go from Ryan Fitzmagic to Taylor Heineke. I think he's a quarterback who can move the ball, and they can win with him. That said, I don't want to lay points with either of these teams right now.
Let's move then to an NFC South matchup, 269-270, New Orleans, after just pasting the Green Bay Packers today. My guy, Jameis Winston, looking like the real deal. LASIK and a new coach. Well, this is interesting. They get to take on the Carolina Panthers, who won today 19-14. They let the Jets get in the back door for some of those contest entries, right? You know, the fives were out there for some of the contests. 5.5 of the last man standing, by the way, stations. Hell yeah, got in there. But Carolina, this was a look ahead. How about this? Carolina was initially, it was about a pick with a total of 47.5. We see the adjustment now, though, Humans. We're looking at the Saints 3 with a total of 46.
Overreaction alert. This is going to be, I think, one of the biggest overreactions is the Saints pound the Packers 38-3. Now they go on the road as favorites over the Panthers. I like the Panthers in this spot. I think they should be live dogs. Sam Darnold played well today. 24 for 35, 279. Christian McCaffrey returns 21 carries, 98 yards. That's what I'm looking for in week 2 is the overreaction. And I think everybody's going to be, well, the Saints are back. The Saints look like Super Bowl contenders. After blowing out the Packers by 5 touchdowns, I think they're going to be in a little bit of a flat spot here, and the Panthers should be live home dogs.
I'm doing everything I possibly can not to jump, not to bite.
You might see a 3.5 pop up on this game at some point.
I will say this. If we get under 3, if we're talking like 2.5, I'm in. But if it starts to climb, I'm out.
Well, if you lay 2.5, you're playing the Saints?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Let's do it. I'm in. Maybe. We got time. Houston at Cleveland, next up on the rotation. Houston gets a little respect here from odds makers, huh? The market. Look ahead was Cleveland 13 with a total of 45.5. They take care of business against Jacksonville. Cleveland loses a close one to Kansas City. 12.5 the adjustment with a total of 48. Half-point adjustment. Good for you, Houston.
Are the Texans still power rated number 32 in the league after today?
I would say 31 now.
Jaguars 32.
Yeah, they got to be down there. You got to give the Texans respect.
I would agree with that. I think the Texans bumped up a little bit. Plus, you and I both like Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. I think they showed a lot of positive things. I'm seeing a 12.5 and a 13 out there on this game right now, and the Browns blew it. They probably should have beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. I think they'll bounce back and win, but At 13 or more, I might look to play the Texans in this spot.
Now, who did not blow it were the Cincinnati Bengals. They did the opposite of that. They got a win. Cincinnati took one out in overtime, 27-24 over the Minnesota Vikings. They now hit the road to take on the Chicago Bears, coming off of a loss at the hands of the Los Angeles Rams. All Andy Dalton's fault, of course. So as we look now, Chicago on the look at 3.5 with a total of 46. Now we're looking at 3 with some other places like juice to right. The 3 minus 120 with a total of 45.5.
I hate to say it because I've been anti-Bears the whole time, but I kind of like the Bears in this spot.
I would agree.
This number is telling you the Bengals and the Bears are dead even teams on a neutral. I actually think the Bears are a few points, maybe even better than the Bengals. And in fact, the Bears showed an ability to run the football against the Rams tonight, which I didn't really think they would have. But that's the Rams' number 1 ranked defense. And the Bears found some soft spots in there. The Rams will allow you to hit some quick, short, intermediate throws. And they actually left some gaping holes out there for the Bears running backs. I think the Bengals defense is much softer in the front 7 than the Rams, and the Bears should be able to pick up a win here. I kind of like the home favorite.
It's freaky. Our minds so much alike. David Montgomery today, 16 carries, 108 yards, 6.8, 1 touchdown. That's with Aaron Donald in the middle. This is not a front 7. That is
I was surprised the Vikings didn't have more success moving the ball against the Cincinnati front. I wouldn't be surprised to see this number go up to 3.5 at some point this week.
Now, one of the overreactions I'm looking to play against, the problem is the team that's on the other side has yet to play, so we'll see how it goes. Pittsburgh Steelers will play host to the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders, of course, playing tomorrow night, Monday. Pittsburgh on the look ahead 5.5 with a total of 49. They get a win on the road against Buffalo. Market is adjusted at half point. We're up to 6 with a total of 48.5.
Might look to play the Raiders here, depending on what happens Monday night, but you might want to grab that 6 if you like the Raiders in the matchup and think the Steelers win and Buffalo was an overreaction or a little bit of a mirage because the Steelers had a block punt. They were outgained by 120 yards. They were outrushed by 45 yards. The box score would not tell you the Steelers were the better team today. So I think there is going to be an overreaction, and the Raiders should be live in this game against Pittsburgh.
Now, speaking of their opponent, Buffalo Bills, they will look to bounce back. They hit the road to take on the Miami Dolphins. Look-ahead line was Bills 3 with a total of 48.5. There's been an adjustment, but not one that you would think. Bills now actually laying 3.5 with a total of 47.5. And this is something we could talk about throughout the week, humans. But again, I thought the Miami Dolphins got away with one here. Damian Harris fumbles as the Patriots are going in to take a lead and potentially cover that game. Outgained, first downs, yards per play, however you want to do it. The Dolphins were outplayed by the Patriots today, and yet Miami won.
Well, Dolphins did not win the box score, but they won the scoreboard. And I think they're going to be a bet against in week 2, coming home off a win at New England. And the Bills are going to be angry with the way they performed in week 1 against the Steelers. They were sloppy. Josh Allen, like you said, looked like the Josh Allen of a couple of years ago, not the version we saw last season. I think the Bills bounce back here. I'm not going to let the hook scare me away. I think I would look to play the Bills on the money line or play the Bills at minus 3.5. I don't think you can find a 3 out there right now. It's pretty much 3.5 across the board. This number, by the way, did open a little bit lower. Yeah. So I think the Bills will get the betting support here, despite the loss today.
We've also seen an adjustment for the Los Angeles Rams in their matchup on the road against the Indianapolis Colts. Colts stymied, looked awful, 28-16 the final score in their game with Seattle today. Not even indicative of how the game really went. They were never really in it to begin with. It was 21-10 for a majority of the contest. Now the Rams, who opened as a 3-point favorite with a total of 48.5 on the look-ahead line, humans, now they're a 4-point favorite with a total of 47, and I would expect that there's some 4.5s that will appear. Spots like DraftKings have this 4 shaded to the 4 side at 4 minus 115.
Again, the Rams, I think, showed some weaknesses on defense tonight that I did not expect to see. And I expect the Colts are one of those teams I think will look so much better in Week 8 than they do in Week 1.
Yeah, we have to realize, right, left tackle, the problem. T.Y. Hilton not playing.
Offensive line's been in chaos for the Colts, right? T.Y. Hilton, like you just mentioned, out. The Colts are going to be a buy-on team at some point. Is it going to be Week 2? Are you ready to buy Week 2? I'm not sure, but I would look to take 4 or 4.5 or pass here because, again, I'll look to bet against the team on Sunday night to beat up on the Bears and is going on the road laying points. I think the Colts might be in a good spot here.
Yeah, I am. They're definitely on the short list, or the long list, I'll put it that way. They're under consideration. San Francisco on the road against Philadelphia. I hate to say it, but this one might be on the short list here, and they would be on the Philly side. It has nothing to do with what Philly did today. It has everything to do with the injuries that the San Francisco 49ers, or injury. Jason Verrett, a serious injury for the 49ers secondary, and that is already a thin secondary as it is. A big reason why the Lions were able to get back into this game. So they're short their starting corner. Now San Francisco hits the road. Look-ahead line here had San Francisco as about a 3.5-point favorite with a total of 46.5. Now we're looking at 3 with a total of 48 or 49.
You know, the Niners have been really good under Kyle Shanahan when it comes to bullying bad teams. They've been great in the bully role. And don't forget, they were up 24 points 2 minutes ago today.
Yes.
But their back-to-back road games are a little bit beat up on defense. And I think the Eagles are going to have a lot of confidence after steamrolling the Falcons in Atlanta today. Again, I don't want to take a stand on this game yet. I want to look at it more later in the week. But I think the Eagles could be live as dogs here.
What do we do with Denver? So they hit the road to take on Jacksonville. This is one of those instances where maybe the pendulum swings a little too far in the other direction, right? Jacksonville today closes a 3-point favorite on the road against the Houston Texans. They lose. It wasn't even close. They lose in very, very easy fashion to Houston. Now they go from a 3-point favorite on the road to a 6-point underdog at home to the Denver Broncos. Keep in mind that the look-ahead line here was Denver -3 with a total of 43. So we're talking about a 3-point adjustment here, and now all of a sudden a team that was power rated relatively high finds itself in a pretty sizable home underdog role.
And I agree with the adjustment here. I think the Broncos should be 6. Jaguars, you and I have talked about it several times in the past week. Their offensive line looks weak. If you can't run the ball, Trevor Lawrence is going to look bad. He threw 3 picks today. Urban Meyer's not working any miracles over there on the sideline.
I think his chest feeling pretty tight, huh?
Might have some chest pains. Might want to spend more time with his family. If things keep going south, who knows what's going to happen here. But I think the Jaguars are every bit as bad as they looked, and I was not surprised they got beat today in Houston. So I support the adjustment here in the Broncos.
All right, one game we haven't really touched on yet, and this is a pretty fascinating one. New England Patriots on the road against the New York Jets. This is one where I don't want to get off of my prides. I saw a lot from the New England Patriots today that I expected to be strengths from them against Miami.
Sure.
Right? You said it. They won the box score in every category that I expected them to, except for the final score. Now you go on the road to take on the New York Jets. Look-ahead line was 3.5 with a total of 44. That's pretty much what we're looking at across the board. No real adjustments. Plus spots like the Superbook or Circa are 4. This is the other side of it, though. I watched that game closely because I had action. Zach Wilson was not impressive today. 20-37, 258, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Put the ball on the turf once as well. This Jets team got in the back door, but it was not a good offensive performance.
Zach Wilson was much better in the second half than he was the first half. His start was horrendous in that game today. I think the Patriots are another team that's going to bounce back, and I expect a double-digit win in this one. The Patriots are much better, much stronger on both lines, much better coach team at this point. Mac Jones, I thought, played really well today. That costly fumble at the end was what cost the Patriots the chance to get the win. I was hoping to lay 3 here, JVT, and obviously the betting market, I think, is sharp enough not to allow that to happen here. So it's 3.5 or 4. I'll be looking to bet the Pats or pass.
How about this? The Jets today, 252 total yards, 4.2 yards per play. 93 of those yards came on their final drive to get into the end zone late. It was not a good performance for the Jets offense. All right, we'll roll through the rest of week 2, and coming up in 15, 20 minutes from now, Dan Staley walks us through week 2 of the college football schedule.
Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change, like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir?
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Hey, it's Wilmer Valderrama from Essential Voices of Wilmer Valderrama Podcast. This clip is brought to you by State Farm. State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates on car insurance. Yes, for real. If you need to insure your car or home or both, it may feel like you're getting special treatment, but the truth is State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates with solutions to meet your car insurance needs, whatever they may be. So talk to a State Farm agent today and discover surprisingly great rates to fit any budget. Como un buen vecino, State Farm está ahí. I was just arriving from Venezuela back in 1993. At the end of 1993, I was 13 years old. And I had to repeat the 7th grade because I didn't know how to speak English. So I was in ESL classes, English as a second language. And that was the class where I had, I was able to commute with other kids like me that had just gotten here too. And as I was progressing through school, I realized that my first job on behalf of my family was to learn how to speak English. That was the first thing I needed to do. And as it progressed, I had a couple of teachers who really believed, right? Who really believed in these kids, and I think that was one of the biggest signs of confidence that really kind of empowered me to do what I'm doing now. Listen to Essential Voices with me, Wilmer Valderrama, every Tuesday as part of the My Cultura podcast network, available on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football is back, and the best bet you can make is downloading the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It doesn't matter if you're new to gambling or an old pro, FanDuel has something for everyone. And as an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you know your bets are safe. There's also never been a better time to use FanDuel, because right now, you'll get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. You can even turn a small wager into a big payday with a same-game parlay bet. Just sign up with the promo code SPOTIFY to place your first bet risk-free on FanDuel Sportsbook. Download FanDuel today. 21 plus and present in Virginia. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is Opening Lines with Jonathan Von Tobel and Matt Humans on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Make this football season your best sports betting season ever. Start your VSiN free trial today to get full access to our sports betting experts, including 24/7 video streaming, daily best bet emails, betting splits with the money and ticket percentages on every game, plus full access to VSiN.com data and analysis. Get everything VSiN has to offer for only $22 a month. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe. It's Matt Humans. It's Jonathan Von Tobel here on the Opening Lines, rolling through the opening lines for Week 2 of the National Football League here in our second hour. All right, Matt, we left off 287, 288. So let's start here. Minnesota on the road against Arizona. Vikings take one on the chin. They lose on the road in overtime to the Cincinnati Bengals. Had to come back to even force overtime with the 50-plus yard field goal. Ultimately lose that game. Arizona comes off of a beatdown of the Tennessee Titans, 38-13, in a game that actually was not as close as that score even indicates. Arizona on the look ahead. This is quite the adjustment here too, right? Arizona, when you look at the look headlines from last week, 3 with a total of 50. Now we're talking about 4.5 populating the board with a total of 51.
I think this is a classic case of how you handicap Week 2 when you're talking about Week 1 overreactions. Are the Cardinals as good as they look today? No. You talked about it. They took advantage of a matchup against the Titans they could exploit. They averaged 6.2 yards per play, allowed 3.9. They outgained the Titans 416 to 248. They're not as good as they look today. I do like a lot of what I saw in Arizona. But the fact that you get the Vikings here catching 4.5, a team that's well coached, Mike Zimmer, at times in the past years looked like he's not a good coach anymore. But Zimmer is going to have his team motivated here for Week 2 off that loss at Cincinnati. And I think this is kind of a buy low spot on the Vikings. We're catching 4.5. I think this number should be more like 3.
Yep. Well, that was the look ahead. Yeah. How about that? Right where it should be. So, yeah, that's one of those. And Minnesota, too, defensively, expect them to, and they weren't even terrible today, but you expect them to continue to get a little better. Some big plays that they gave up. And it was a running game that kind of surprised you, the lack of continuity offensively for the Minnesota Vikings today against Cincinnati. So we go from there to the biggest spread on the board. That would be Tampa Bay and Atlanta. So Tampa Bay, keep in mind, Tampa Bay has some issues in that secondary. For those who don't know, Sean Murphy-Bunting, of course, gruesome elbow injury in that Thursday night game. Won't be available for this week or weeks going forward. Poorly graded secondary by PFF standards in that game against the Dallas Cowboys. Now you're up to a 12.5-point favor with a total of 52 against Atlanta. Look ahead here was 10.5 with a total of 52.
Yeah, it looks like an overreaction, but I'm not going to call it that because the Buccaneers, I think, have so many weapons offensively.
You going to tease them down?
No, I'm not going to mess with the tease. I don't tease 12.5-point favorites. I'm not really going to tease the Falcons up to 18.5 either, but if we're going to tease it, that would be the side I would tease the underdog up in this game. I just think the Falcons are every bit as bad as I thought they were going to be going into the season. I don't think Arthur Smith is any sort of offensive innovator that's going to set the league on fire. Matt Ryan's best days are in the rearview mirror. There's no question about it. But he's got some weapons. The Falcons are at points going to look better than they did today. And the Buccaneers showed in that Thursday night game their linebackers, their secondary, those guys can get exploited in coverage. So the Falcons probably be able to move the ball better in this matchup. But right now, I'm not, like I said, running to the window or jumping on the app to take the points with the dog. If you like the Falcons, you might be able to get 13.5 by the end of the week.
So let's go to Tennessee and Seattle then. This is the game on the long list, but it's on a side. It would be a total. Look ahead here was 3.5 in favor of the Seahawks with a total of 51. They go on the road to beat Indianapolis. We just talked about the Titans who lost to the Arizona Cardinals. Tennessee now has to make the trek to the West Coast, where from a 3.5-point underdog they go on the look-ahead line to a 5.5 and in actually multiple spots a 6-point underdog with a total of 52.5 against
there's
Seattle.
A couple of dogs here that are going to be easy for me to pass on this week. Falcons and Titans, and if you want to make a case for those two, that's fine. I would listen to your case, but I'm coming into the season, I did not like the Falcons. I did not like the Titans.
Yeah.
And didn't see anything to change my mind in week one. So I think this number, Seahawks 6, is fair.
I think this number may be slight over adjustment to me. It's about playing on some of the thoughts that we had, about the Seahawks secondary, about the Seahawks defense, this lack of a pass rush, and the ability for Tennessee to potentially have some success more than they did offensively.
But you also
today.
know the Seahawks are going to be able to move the ball and put up points in this Tennessee defense,
which is why over 52.5 would be for me the angle to go. The look ahead number was 51, so now we're at 52.5. We'll see if that's going to be the case. But I do think that you'll probably see this total move in that direction because this has the makings of a contest that has two teams that I think will struggle to stop the other. So we go from there to the Dallas-LA matchup. The Chargers will play host to the Dallas Cowboys. We haven't seen a massive adjustment off of this, but Dallas riding high off of a very competitive game, of course, against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in which they had a lead late. Dallas, on the look-ahead, was a 3-point underdog with a total of 50. And we're pretty much there, although this is where it toggles a little bit, to use Vinny's term, right? We're talking about 3 minus 110, 52.5 over at Circa. We're talking about 2.5 minus 115. It's some online books right out there on the East Coast. There's a 3 out there shaded to the dog side. There's a Superbook has that same price as well. So you can find numbers around the key areas, just varying juice. It's not surprising to see this change, though, given how good Dallas looked in that game against Tampa Bay offensively.
Yeah, and again, don't be fooled because the Cowboys are not going to look that good every week. And I was surprised their offense was ready to fire like it did Thursday night. With Dak Prescott not playing a game in about a year, the offensive line missing Zach Martin. It was surprising. It was also an indictment of the Tampa Bay defense, especially the linebackers and secondary, that the Cowboys were able to put the ball in the air for 403 yards. Dak Prescott had 58 pass attempts. That's not a sustainable offensive plan. They're going to have to run the ball. And Zeke Elliott, I think at some point, is going to have to bust loose. It might be this matchup against the Chargers. Zach Martin comes back. He's expected to come back on the offensive line. That's going to help. He's their best offensive lineman. They do lose Collins on the offensive line to a suspension. But again, to me, it goes back to the Cowboys, I think, are going to be a pretty good team in the road dog role. They have been in the past. I think they will be this year. They showed it against the Bucs on Thursday night. I've never liked the Chargers as home favorites. And sometimes that's one of the nuances of NFL handicapping. If you pay attention to angles like that, sometimes it can pay off. So I kind of like the Cowboys in the road dog role here. And there are a couple spots, including Circa and the Westgate, where you can get 3. So my play would be Cowboys plus 3.
All right, let's go to our 2 primetime games for week 2 then. Last 2 on the rotation. Kansas City will head to Baltimore on Sunday night. Look ahead was 2.5 with a total of 53.5. We're looking at 2.5 right now on the actual game line with a total of 54.5. So a slight adjustment on the total. But we haven't seen Baltimore play. That's a very key aspect of this. Baltimore, we know, very banged up. Cluster injuries both at corner and at running back. We'll see if Jimmy Smith plays this Monday night game. But no real adjustment, and I don't expect to see one until we see the Baltimore Ravens play tomorrow night.
Yeah, our graphic was wrong there. The Chiefs are the favorites in this game, 2.5-point favorites out in Baltimore. And if you like the Chiefs, I would say lay the 2.5 now, because the only thing that could really change is if the Ravens look really bad Monday night. If Baltimore gets beat up by the Raiders, you're going to see the Chiefs go to 3, maybe even 3.5-point favorites. Because a year ago, these teams played, same situation in Baltimore. The Chiefs led 27-10 at halftime, and they boat raced Baltimore in that game. So I would lean Chiefs at 2.5, but again, it's probably going to be a game that you're going to see a lot of offense. This is a Sunday night game, and I see a low total out there of 54.5, but it's moving towards 55.5, 56.
Yep. And the last one on the board, it's a good one. Monday night, Detroit on the road against Green Bay. Green Bay licking its wounds after falling completely flat on its face on the road in Jacksonville against New Orleans today. So we saw a look ahead here, not a massive change, but the look ahead was Green Bay 11 with a total of 48.5. Now 10.5 is populating the board with a total of 49. Detroit looking a little bit more plucky offensively, but most of the damage coming late in the game against a really beat-up secondary for San Francisco. Don't think you can buy too much into Jared Goff and the numbers there. And Green Bay, as you've said multiple times, is going to be better than they looked. Question is 10.5 in an NFL game and in the divisional game, nonetheless, on Monday night.
Yeah, I'm not ready to lay the 10.5 with the Packers. And it's at that number where you can't really tease the Packers either. You're going to tease it down to 4.5. That's not a smart move. So I'm not sure what to do with this game because I'm not ready to jump on the Lions side either. I think this is a poorly coached team. They trailed by 24 points. It's a 2-minute warning today for a reason. That said, the Green Bay defense has got some problems. I thought Aaron Rodgers looked totally disinterested in the game. He kind of looked like the Aaron Rodgers of 2 years ago. And I thought the Packers might take a step back this year because, JVT, if you think about last year, the ball bounced the Packers' way. Everything went Aaron Rodgers' way last year. And in the NFL, that typically does not happen 2 years in a row. So I thought, and that's one of the reasons you and I each bet the Vikings to win the NFC North. I'm not crazy about that bet after today.
Hey, they're all 0-1, so let's go.
It's a pretty bad division. They're going to try to challenge the NFC East for worst division in football. No, I would expect the Packers to bounce back, and that's what this number is reflecting. Bookmakers making it really difficult to lay it with the Pack with this number at 10.5.
Yeah, interesting to watch.
Do you want to bet the Lions on a weekly basis? I know sure as hell I don't.
No, I don't. I think I'll be okay as we move forward with that. But really, when you look at this, it'd be interesting to see for Green Bay moving forward. I thought one of the weaknesses we talked about priors was going to be a front seven that had some trouble against some strong ground games. And today, 4.5 yards per carry to the New Orleans Saints. It's not the worst, but it's also below average. So it is a weakness for Green Bay to watch as we move forward. On the other side, let's talk with Dan Saley, professional handicapper, college football handicapper. He attacks these opening lines posted at Circa for the next week of college football action. We got a lot of good games next week, man. I'd say this is a much deeper card than this past week.
Great college card.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Alabama and Florida. We've got Penn State and Auburn. Dan's involved with a lot of those and more. We'll discuss when we come back here on the opening lines.
This is Opening Lines with Jonathan Von Tobel and Matt Humans on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It is now available 24/7 on YouTube TV Sports Plus package. Sign up today at tv.youtube.com to start your free trial. And remember, you can also watch us 24/7 on Fubo, TV, Sling, and Xfinity X1. Visit vsin.com to find all the ways you can watch.
I know a lot of people watching right now on YouTube TV, and they're tuned in because they want to see Dan Saley this week.
Well, let's welcome in Dan Saley. Dan is nice enough to give us some time today. College football handicapper attacks the Circa openers with gusto and vigor every single Sunday at about 11 a.m. Dan, good evening. Appreciate the time. So let us dive right in with the headline matchup, Alabama, Florida. We were talking about this in the first hour, that it's not great that there's already rumblings coming out of Florida that Emory Jones got to lock it up, man. 4 interceptions through 2 games in lesser competition. Now it's Alabama. What was the read here? Is the Crimson Tide actually opened 15?
Well, thanks for having me, JVT. Yeah, the Alabama game is interesting. I'm always waiting to see what that number is because usually it's too low and you just want to bet it because it's going to skyrocket and then you can try to get a middle on the other side. But when I saw that it opened at 15, I felt like there would be a lot of buyback from Florida bettors. And that's what happened. It opened at 15. You had a lot of action on Florida. It actually dropped it all the way down to 13 to my surprise, and that's when I hit it. I grabbed it at 13, and, of course, now that game is up to 16. And the one thing that I was thinking about is Anthony Richardson, who probably should be the starting quarterback for Florida. He pulled a hammy on that touchdown run yesterday. I'm not sure how effective he will be in this game. But I think you should take Alabama, take them in the morning, take them in the afternoon, take them in the evening until someone proves otherwise. You got to bet Alabama. And I'm sure that line's going to just keep going at some point, and maybe you can get a nice middle. if it goes up past 17.
Yeah, it's up to 16 right now. So open 15, down to 13, up to 16. I made the number 16.5. I always make Alabama numbers a little bit high. Dan, talk about your philosophy when you're betting these opening numbers at Circa. You obviously want closing line value. And how often do you shoot for middles on some of these games?
Well, that's the name of the game, is getting that closing line value, and that's what you want to do. You want to beat that closing number. If you do that often enough, usually you're going to be a winner. What's interesting is the most common margin of victory in college football game. Number 1 is 3 points, not surprising. Number 2 is 7 points, again, not surprising. What is surprising is number 3 is 14 points, which I find interesting. I would have guessed maybe 4 points, which I think is what the NFL is. And the number 4 most common margin is 10 points. So you're looking at all those key numbers. If you can dance around those, i.e., you get Alabama at 13.5 or 13, and then it goes up, to 16. You've got a good spot there. Maybe not with Alabama because they normally blow everyone out even worse. But in general, if you can get anything straddling those key numbers, especially if you don't feel super great about the game, if you think it's going to land on 14 or has a good chance to, then why not shoot for that middle? So plus it also gives you, an advantage in terms of you could throw a lot of money out there on those middle opportunities. If you hit 1 out of 20, you break even. But statistically, you should be hitting them 1 out of 14 times. So obviously, if you're betting a lot, especially over a long time, you're going to make out quite well.
Dan Saley, professional sports bettor, specializes in college football, fires at the Circa opening numbers every Sunday. Let's talk about the Arizona State BYU game. I think it's a fascinating game to handicap, Dan, because you would think BYU is going to be in a bit of a flat spot after the celebration last night and stopping the 9-game losing streak to rival Utah. Does Arizona State deserve to be a 2.5 point road favorite here? I'm not sure. I've got BYU rated the better football team, but it's not a great spot if you're looking to take the Cougars. You took BYU +2 right away.
Right. It opened up at 2, and I think it's still at 2. It hasn't moved. I think anytime you're getting points at home is good, but Arizona State just hasn't shown us anything yet. And I agree with you. That was a big victory in the Holy War, and I was on the wrong side of that. I thought Utah was going to beat them. But watching that game, the one thing that became very clear to me is that Jaron Hall, the quarterback, he's the real deal. That guy's got some wheels. Mm-hmm. And I think Arizona State has had trouble traveling to BYU in the past. And getting points at home, I think that's good. And I think that line will move. I think that's going to flip by game time.
Okay. BYU right now, a 2-point home dog to Arizona State. JVT, what about let's talk about the San Jose State-Hawaii game quickly, because you grabbed San Jose State at -4, Dan. This is late. This is going to be a 9:30 p.m. Pacific time kickoff this week. Late night football, San Jose State and Hawaii. And Hawaii's playing on its campus. It's got a little 10,000-seat stadium. It's a pretty cool atmosphere set up here. But JVT's got San Jose rated his number 1 team in the Mountain West. You laid 4 points at the Circa opener. It is now up to 6.5, and some spots 7. So you like the San Jose side at a cheap number.
Well, the only disappointing thing about this game is it opened at 3, and I just wasn't fast enough to be able to get the 4. That was what I got. That number actually moved up all the way to 8, and it's important people understand that. It moved all the way up to 8, and then you had some Hawaii money come in and back it down to 6.5. I think anyone who's been watching Hawaii play has been less than impressed lately. They certainly haven't done it for me. I like San Jose State having had time off since their last game with USC, time to think about everything they needed to fix and change. And I think the talent disparity between San Jose State and Hawaii, I think, is big enough to certainly justify being a favorite on the road. But again, if that number, and I think that number will go back above 7, above 8, that's another middle possibility. But I might just leave it as is. -4, I feel, is pretty good against Hawaii.
Well, let's stay along the same vein then, Dan, because Human's highest power-rated team in the Mountain West is Nevada, and Nevada has a pretty intriguing road spot coming up this week as they will hit up Manhattan to take on Kansas State. This is still sitting at about 2. What did you grab here, and what is your read between Nevada and Kansas State?
Well, this is kind of more of a unique play. I had this targeted last night because Skylar Thompson, the quarterback of Kansas State, is going to be out. He got hurt in the last game. and his backup, Will Howard, he came in, he just did not impress, and this was against an FCS team. So looking at that, to me, it was just a clear value for Nevada. I think Nevada's got a great offense. Carson Strong shows that he can play. And so the moment I was going to bet it, whatever it was when it opened, and it opened at 2, and that's what I got it at. I'm not sure where it's at right now. It might still, maybe it's 2.5 now.
Yeah,
I think it's 2.5. So again, you're playing against. I'm going against an injury with Kansas State at the quarterback position.
I like it. All right, let's go to one of the big primetime matchups then that I know a lot of eyes will be on here. Auburn, Penn State. We saw this open. We got the full touchdown of 7, but we're underneath that key number of 7 at 6.5, and I think you took the full 7, correct, with Auburn?
I did. The moment I saw 7, I completely jumped on it. We've got a powerhouse type of SEC team. Getting 7 points to go on the road. I think it is going to be a whiteout game, which is great, and that's a great atmosphere. But Auburn, every year, they go to play LSU or Alabama. They're used to big atmospheres. Not as impressed with Penn State in terms of they did need a lot of help to beat Wisconsin. I think it's going to be a good game. But I also think Auburn, Bo Nix has been looking better. Their running backs, Tank Bigsby, Jarquez Hunter, they look good. The value getting 7, I think is worth it. It went down to 5, and then there was some buyback, and it's back up to 6.5. So a lot of people did throw money at Auburn when it opened.
Yeah, Auburn plus 7, a good number there. At the same time, Bo Nix on the road, not the same quarterback, and Auburn just beat 2 of the worst teams on the face of the earth in Akron and Alabama State. So still some questions to be answered about the Tigers. How about Minnesota, Colorado? And the Gophers, without their top running back, might be the best running back in the Big Ten, talking about Ibrahim. Minnesota, you grabbed you grabbed Colorado plus 2. That's now a pick'em at Circa. So Colorado opened a home dog. It's now a pick'em game, and the Buffaloes, Dan, had every opportunity to upset Texas A&M yesterday.
So this is kind of the most interesting game on opening lines today because they opened up. It was Minnesota -3.
Okay.
That flipped all the way around to Colorado -3, a 6-point swing. And after that, hours later, it's gone back down to pick'em. So that's just a very interesting swing. That means you've got a lot of different bettors with different opinions. The way I look at Colorado, and I watched a good part of that game, they held Texas A&M to 97 yards rushing and 3.3 a carry. Minnesota, I'm not sure if they've lost some identity when they lost Ibrahim. Jason Potts is a good back, but, Minnesota was up 21-3 at the half yesterday, and normally they would just keep pounding with Ibrahim. They would demoralize the other team. They'd run the clock. And instead, they let Miami of Ohio come back. And Minnesota had to score 10 in the fourth quarter just to secure their victory. This is their first road trip of the year. They're playing in altitude. I think Colorado is going to stop their run game. And I think getting points at home, that was a good spot to be in. I
kind of like that spot as well. Little known fact about Dan Saley. He and his wife named their first son Raider.
Really?
His real first name is Raider. Dan, do you like the home dog right. Monday night? Raiders-Ravens.
I do.
Yeah, okay.
I do. Go Raiders. What running backs are on the Baltimore roster right now? Did they get somebody off the street to come in and play?
I think they might be hitting up Raider, actually, to fill up some spots, Dan. So
they would need him. They would need him. I think the Raiders are going to rock it out.
Dan, we're up against it, but we appreciate the time, bud. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, you got it. All right, wrap up the opening lines here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, next.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Get your tickets now for the daytime stage at our iHeartRadio Music Festival, presented by Samsung Galaxy.
Saturday, September 18th at Area 15, Las Vegas's new entertainment and events complex. A mind-blowing experience.
The hottest new stars from all genres of music perform live on the daytime stage.
Don't miss The Babies, Olivia Rodrigo,
The Kid Leroy,
Sweetie,
All Time Low,
24K Golden,
Russell Dickerson,
Youngblood,
Gabby Barrett,
Tate McRae,
Conan Gray,
Addison Rae, and more. The biggest artists in music come together for one weekend in Las Vegas.
Get your tickets for our 2021 iHeartRadio Music Festival, including the daytime stage at AXS.com.
Presented by Samsung Galaxy. Samsung wants to remind you that on August 11th, there's only one question you should be asking yourself. Are you ready for this life? Something big is brewing. Find out more at Samsung.com/reserve.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is Opening Lines with Jonathan Von Tobel and Matt Humans on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Wrapping up things here on the opening lines. You heard it. We'll be here, though, for those who are not familiar with it. Opening lines, we're going to be here every single Sunday night, Humans and myself, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We are your look into the next week of action in the NFL and college ranks, Humans. So we're excited to be back and also be back on the edge.
Oh, I love the late night shows.
Yep.
Love them. By the way, props to guys like Dave Ross and Wes Reynolds who were workhorses today. 7 hours on the Green Zone.
Old school.
When
Green Zone
VSiN started 4.5 years ago, JVT and I did the 7-hour Green Zones from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
In the heat of summer.
That's a tough shift.
Oh, yeah.
Especially tough in the summer when we did it when you had the baseball games to talk about.
When we were
it's
told,
a lot easier when you have football.
When we were told, go over that A's-Tigers game for the 5th time.
Rick Jaffe, our producer, would sit over there. Can we talk about the Rangers and the Tigers one more time? Do we have to? Sean Higgs tweeted us at @real_Higgs. This is not this fake Sean Higgs. This is the real Sean Higgs. The Edge is back. Love to see you guys on late night. And then we get a phone cameo from the professor, VSiN Vinny. A great Sunday night. Just missing an X-Chair promo and Humans fast food meal of the day. I stopped at Del Taco before the show. And probably going to stop at Denny's after the show. Del Taco's got this new quesadilla stuffed taco.
That sounds incredible.
Good. It looks good. Not as good as it looks on the picture, which is true with everything.
I have to say always.
But I got the grilled chicken and the steak, and they were pretty good.
What kind of hot sauce?
I give it a B.
You a hot sauce guy?
Yeah.
What kind of hot sauce are we talking?
I get the fire sauce.
There you go. That's what we're talking about here, huh? That's what we're talking about. Oh, really quickly, before we move on to our college football stuff, you want to clean up? You want to give out Saley had a couple more? Yeah,
Dan Saley fired, I'm going to say about 15 bets here at the circa opening numbers today. So just give you a roundup of what Dan Saley played. And he's obviously trying to get closing line value on these games, and I think he's going to have it on San Jose State. So that's the late game, the bottom of the card Saturday. He's got San Jose -4 at Hawaii. He also played BYU +2. Texas -23, Auburn +7, Colorado +2, Nevada -2, Iowa -21, Toledo -13, Marshall -10, Utah State +11, Virginia +10, UMass +19, Alabama -13.
Oh,
takes a lot of courage to get on the UMass and UConn sides. Also. Virginia Tech +3, and he played one total. Baylor, Kansas over 49. We'll break down some of those games now, but JVT, you and I had a common best bet in college football over the weekend, and it turned out to be one of the best bets of the season. Arkansas +7 over Texas. Razorbacks ran over the Longhorns and embarrassed them. And if you look at the box score, it's not deceiving. It was a one-sided game, start to finish.
It was, and I think this is a really good example. So we're into this territory now, right? Week 1 to week 2 overreactions in the National Football League. This was a really good example of that in college football, right? The market in every way, shape, and form in week 1 goes with Louisiana in that first game on the road against the Longhorns in Austin, right? And Texas handles that game, covers with relative ease, doesn't blow out Louisiana. Never really in doubt, though, that we were going to cover that number.
Right. I think a lot of professional money was on Louisiana in that game. With 20 starters back, Texas closes as a single-digit home favorite, wins the game by 20. Overreaction, hey, Texas looks pretty good.
And on top of that, Arkansas scuffles with Rice in the first half, right? Has to blow them out in the second half. But there were a lot of things that you looked in those box scores, you realized that Arkansas is pretty damn good. And that offensive line is going to be a problem. And sure enough, Arkansas takes care of business in that big way, 40-21 in a game which they won with relative ease. But again, this running game, man, this is going to be something to behold for Arkansas going forward. 47 carries, 333 yards yesterday against Texas, 7.1 yards per attempted, 4 touchdowns on the ground. KJ Jefferson is big and he is mobile. He's got a strong arm too. The passing game's not as dynamic as you'd like it to be, but still, him with Traylon Smith, that is a really, really effective ground game and a really good offensive line that Arkansas's got.
No question. That was my biggest bet at college football Saturday, is one I wrote up as lead game for the New York Post and vsin.com. Arkansas's got some athletes. That thing came through. I mean, at halftime I said I wish I would have even bet more, because you could tell it was going to be a one-sided game and Texas was not going to get back in it. But that being said, now you wonder if Arkansas is going to hit a flat spot, because it's similar to that BYU win over Utah, where I'm sure the party is going to last for a few days. I still think in the big picture, this Arkansas team is going to be a lot to contend with for teams in the SEC, the best teams in the SEC. If you think back to Sam Pittman, when he took over the Razorbacks, they beat Mississippi and Mississippi State last year. Those are good wins. They took LSU, Auburn, Texas A&M to the wire. This Arkansas team's not a fluke. Is the next spot for Arkansas a flat spot? That's something to keep an eye on. But how about Texas? How do you think Texas bounces back now? So Texas was a 7-point favorite most of the week, closed 6 here at the South Point, loses 40-21 to Arkansas. Now Texas faces a Rice team, a bad Rice team in Austin, and the number is 24.5-25 out there at DraftKings, 24.5 at Circa. And Rice is a team that got beat by 21 at Arkansas in the season opener.
And I think we're probably going to see multiple quarterbacks in this game, right? Casey Thompson replaced Hudson Card. And
Casey Thompson played better than Hudson Card yesterday.
He did. And that's a game, and that's a quarterback battle that went late into camp. Hudson Card, I think was a lot of people. It was just kind of surprising that he won the job. And then sure enough, you see him struggle in that game against Arkansas. So I would not be surprised to see Texas work out the kinks and actually put both guys out there, run some offensive stuff, and try to work things out. And this Rice team, look, I mentioned that in that Arkansas game, they got blown out 31-10. I think it was 31-7 in that second half against Arkansas. It's not a good team. They got a poor front seven. Texas is going to be able to do some things with a really talented running back core, and I think you'll probably see Texas push to cover that number. Can I throw one game at you?
By the way, this is a game where I would not look at the dog, because I think Steve Sarkisian's going to try. This is one of those get-right games where you want to get your offense right, and you want to get both quarterbacks a lot of playing time. Hudson Card, Casey Thompson, I think are both going to get opportunities to put up big numbers. And this is a serious quarterback competition. If Thompson outplays him, I think Thompson's going to win the job going into that next week's game against Texas Tech. I think Texas is going to put a big number up on Rice.
So I'm really interested. I'm going to throw one game at you and get your thoughts on this. So we were talking about perceptions, right? And I want to look a little bit more into the games that they played over the weekend in their first two. But one game that I got pretty interested in watching was Miami against Appalachian State. And Miami doesn't cover. Very close game. Appalachian State's a pretty good team, though. Very quality program. But this is now consecutive weeks in which the Hurricanes have failed to cover. They get blown out by Alabama in week one in that primetime spot. Then they get kind of a standalone spot in a week schedule, and Appalachian State plays them tight. And I think the market perception is probably kind of at an all-time low here for Miami at this point. You saw a lot of why is this team ranked? What is going on? So now you get Michigan State this week, and the market initially moves, right? We were talking about, I'm going to make sure I have this right. You saw initially the opener over at Circa, 8, and now we're talking about 6.5, well under that key number of 7, right? You get that hook with a total of 56.5. Look, Michigan State got to beat up on Youngstown, right, this last weekend, and they got a really strong win against Northwestern, but a lot of that damage came in the first half, didn't do much of the second half against Northwestern. I wonder if the perception at Miami is at a low to the point where I can get in now under this touchdown and lay this against Michigan State.
Well, I think you're going to be able to lay 6 with the Hurricanes if you like that side. I see a 6 out there at DraftKings right now, so I would tend to agree with you here. I think De'Ara King and the Hurricanes are probably in a pretty good spot here at home against the Spartans. And how good is Michigan State? We really don't know, because I don't think Northwestern's anything special. And then you play Youngstown State. It might be like you talk about buy low, sell high. I think this might be a buy low spot on Miami.
Yeah, that stuck out to me. And then I am interested. I don't have really an angle, but I am interested in this Cincinnati-Indiana contest.
Yeah, this opened 4, by the way. I made the number 2.5, and I made Cincinnati a 2.5-point road favorite when I was making numbers last night. It opened at circa Cincinnati 4. It's been bet down to 3. And the Bearcats obviously have to win this game and the game at Notre Dame in 2 weeks. They're going to have to run the table for a shot to get in the playoffs. Indiana has not looked that great. I was a little bit surprised the Indiana number against Idaho was so low. I saw 31 initially on the extra board, and the Hoosiers won that game easily. But that game means nothing, right? And I don't think the Iowa game in week 1 means a whole lot either because of the turnovers, and that was just one of those outlier performances I think you kind of draw a line through. Who is Indiana right now? We're going to find out this week.
Yep.
And, I like Cincinnati a little bit in the game, but I thought 4 was too much. I made the number 2.5.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it. So Iowa, too, is one of those teams. So Iowa
really can make you look bad.
Well, and here's the thing about Iowa, right? Because you talked about the 2 pick sixes. But again, one of those instances where a lot of damage in the first half. Indiana gets spirals out of control in the first half. Second half, hold Iowa to a field goal, look much better defensively, things even out. But going to Iowa and kind of building off that, we're not going to do it this week because Iowa's got a cupcake in front of them. But I do wonder, like a team like Iowa, where the shot to take is going to be against them, because the turnover luck through the first 2 games has been insane.
But it also might be one of those seasons where they just have the turnover luck that keeps rolling every week.
And short sample sizes, right? They're short, but that could last a short season. That could last just 2 games. But the bounces and the tip passes that have fallen into the hands of their defenders, the way this has worked for them through 2 games now, I want to find my shot to take against Iowa.
You're right about that. Kirk Herbstreit said something during the Iowa State game that was true, too. He said Iowa's style of play just makes it a really tough matchup for most teams.
Yes, indeed.
Nobody knows that better than Matt Campbell.
Well, we're all done here on the opening lines, but we're not done. For those of you who don't know, our new schedule tomorrow tips off. The details you'll find out mañana, but we are live on The Edge, which is back at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We'll see you.
Make this football betting season your best ever with the VSiN experts. Get daily email updates, 24/7 video streaming, plus exclusive data on vsin.com. We deliver everything you need to succeed, whether you're playing contests, futures, or betting against the spread. Sign up today at vsin.com/subscribe and get our all-access package for less than $22 a month.
The way you watch sports will never be the same. Welcome to Stadium Swim, America's largest outdoor amphitheater, located at the mecca of sports and fun, Circa Resort and Casino. 3 levels, 6 pools, 143-foot screen, plus 365 days of operation, all games, all seasons. All the more reason to visit Las Vegas's new attraction, Stadium Swim. It's always spectator season.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network. The VSiN experts live and breathe sports betting, and we've assembled the best team here in Vegas, the gambling capital of the world. Our unique approach helps you learn how to become a better handicapper. We go beyond picks and predictions to discuss the numbers and analysis that matter to sports bettors. The action never stops, and we are always on for you with TV, radio, and digital coverage. Invest in your sports betting success. Visit vsin.com to learn more.
New to VSiN, the best way to learn more about, 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 the best way.
I want to get back to kissing the cheeks of my grandbabies, making Sunday dinner with a house full of family and lots of laughs.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the very first step that let us get back to what we miss most. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I wait? Now, get the facts. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Here's today's STEM tip. Don't throw out that old plastic bottle. Repurpose it by turning it into an awesome terrarium. Just fill it with sand, pebbles, soil, and your favorite plant. It'll grow sealed right in its own ecosystem. Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.